You've probably heard someone say how some tank was made to be a defensive tank. Well, that could have happened before. For modern tanks that is no longer a thing, and has not been for a while. For some reason, many people are led to believe that particular tanks, especially NATO tanks, were made to primarily be defensive tanks. But before we delve further into it, a quick word about my sponsor, War Thunder. This video is sponsored by War Thunder. War Thunder is a military vehicle combat online game. It is free to play on PC, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Not to mention that it is cross-platform between PC and consoles. The game features an incredible arsenal of more than 1500 historically accurate playable tanks, aircraft, helicopters and ships from 1930s to 1990s. Best thing about the game are its realistic physics and one of the most detailed and most immersive vehicle damage models in gaming. If you use my link to register, you will receive a bonus, a premium vehicle, tank, aircraft or ship, as well as 3-day account boost. The game is completely free, so you can start playing immediately. You see, modern main battle tanks don't have specific roles. They are supposed to be versatile, and pretty much all of them are designed with such idea in mind. Well, this might have been the case a long time ago, when tanks were divided into different classes, and you also had tank destroyers, etc. It certainly no longer is. When someone says about a tank that that tank is made for defense, they are probably giving that as an excuse for usually bad lower hull protection, and it is usually something along the lines, yes, the lower front plate is bad, but it was meant to fight from cover, or it was made to fight from a hull down position. That is completely false. Not only are they completely failing to defend their favorite tank, they are even making it seem even worse. Because in that case, if a tank was made to be a defensive tank, then logically it was not made for offensive operations, and it would perform worse in offense than defense. But as I said, that is completely false. The tanks that have much worse hull than turret protection, and especially bad lower hull, they were made with a different idea in mind, protecting the area that is most likely to be hit. Prior to modern designs, research was conducted in order to determine which area is getting hit the most in actual warfare, and all the wars until the 70s showed pretty much the same results. It was the turret. And it usually has nothing to do with the accuracy of the enemy guns or anything similar. Probable reason for such occurrence is the fact that the turret would be the first or the only thing you would see from a tank in most situations. And the main reason for that is usually the terrain. Because the world is not all a plain terrain, most of the time tanks would come in view going over a slightly raised terrain. And the first thing that you would see is, of course, the turret. Not to mention that, yes, a lot of the terrain's advantages would be used for cover, but anyone sane would do that, so no tank would be made to specifically fight from cover. Another reason is the fact that nature doesn't permit you to see anything else other than a turret of a tank, because something like tall grass, bushes, rocks and so on would completely obscure the view of the lower parts of the tank, and the turret would be the only thing you can see. And in urban areas, turret can also be the only visible thing because of fences and rubble, so of course you would shoot at the thing of a tank you can see, which is the turret. There isn't a single situation where a hull would be visible and the turret would not. If a hull is visible, so is the turret, but not vice versa, so it makes sense to prioritize the protection on the turret. That is why practically every single main battle tank has really bad protection at the lower parts of the front. Of course, this does not mean you are safe. It is always good to focus protection on the entire frontal area of the tank, but that is close to impossible. You need to make sacrifices in order to put as much protection as possible without increasing the weight. For example, you have Challenger 2, which has a pretty bad protection on the lower front plate, but because of that enjoys one of the most protected frontal turret armors in the world. There have been instances where it came out of battle after being hit with several RPG rockets, but that is simply because of the design decisions. But the lower front plate's protection problem became apparent when it was actually penetrated by an RPG-29 rocket. Luckily, everyone survived, but the risk was still there. What if next time someone doesn't? Of course, in both situations where it survived multiple hits and where it was penetrated, it fought in the offensive, If it was designed for defense, it wouldn't have been used in such a way. Another common thing I hear is that NATO tanks were made for defense against USSR and thus they are defensive tanks. Yes, those tanks were made to defend against USSR by trying to make them better than Soviet tanks, not digging them in one spot where they would be an easy target for enemy artillery and air units. And what if NATO couldn't respond fast enough and Soviets took a portion of Western Germany? And then when they would be driven to a halt, NATO would just let them have what they took over, or would they launch a counteroffensive to reclaim the lost land? If so, how would they do that with defensive tanks? Don't forget to check out War Thunder, where you can take control of many land, air or naval vehicles. Use the link from the description to get a premium vehicle and a 3-day account boost when you register. Remember, the game is completely free for PC, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Just download and play. So, at the end, no modern tank is actually made to mainly perform defensive operations. What is usually taken as proof for such things is being completely misrepresented. Tanks that are made with worse hull protections are usually made like that to increase the protection on the turret, because the turret is most likely to be hit, not because they would be dug into the ground and fight from a hull down position. In modern warfare, that is usually not the best idea, and the Iraqis really showed that in the Gulf War, where their obsolete T-72M tanks were getting penetrated even through the ground or sand. At the end, what looks like something that lowers the protection is actually something that increases the protection. That would be all. Thanks for watching. If you like my content, you can consider supporting me on Patreon. And if you can't, leave a like on the video or subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you all in the next video. Have a nice day.